In the gentle embrace of Wallowa Valley, Oregon, where mountains whisper secrets through drifting mists and autumn skies, fade softly into winter's quiet breath, lies Broken Arrow Ranch, a haven once vibrant with life, now muted by years of sorrow. Noah Barrett, a man whose heart mirrors his ranch, worn weary and haunted by loss, faces the arrival of a granddaughter bound by silence in a past steeped in tragedy. Yet in the midst of despair emerges Phantom, a wounded horse whose scars run deeper than the flesh. Together, these fractured souls begin an extraordinary journey toward healing, uncovering hidden truths and forgotten connections that will change their lives forever. The Wallowa Valley stretched beneath the autumn sky like a forgotten painting, once vibrant, now fading into winter's grasp. Morning mist clung to the edges of the mountains, reluctant to yield to the pale sunlight that struggled through cloud-laden skies. Here in the remote corner of Oregon, time seemed to move differently, measured not in hours but in the slow dance of seasons, in the gentle sway of tall grass, in the plaintive calls of birds growing scarcer as winter approached. Among the scattered properties that dotted the valley floor, Broken Arrow Ranch stood as a testament to better days. Once a sanctuary for wild horses, its weathered barns and split-rail fences now leaned with age and neglect. The main house, a century-old craftsman with a wide front porch, had paint peeling from its siding like old scars refusing to heal. Inside, Noah Barrett stood at his kitchen window, watching the world wake through a glass smudged with age. At 66, his once imposing frame had begun to surrender to gravity's shoulders slightly stooped beneath the weight of years and regrets. His weathered face, framed by a salt and pepper beard, bore the lines of a man who had seen too much and smiled too little. The morning light caught the silver flask in his hand as he took a long, burning sip before tucking it into the pocket of his worn flannel shirt. The telephone's shrill ring shattered the silence. Noah let it ring 5 times before answering with a voice rough from disuse. "Barrett, it's Sarah. We're about 15 minutes out." A heavy pause stretched between father and daughter, charged with years of unspoken words. "The room's ready," he finally said. "Dad, this isn't easy for any of us." Noah closed his eyes, feeling the familiar pressure building behind them. "Just get here safe," he said, hanging up before she could respond. He moved through the house with the careful precision of a man trying not to disturb ghosts. In the small bedroom off the kitchen, he checked the preparations one last time. Fresh sheets on the twin bed, a hand-carved wooden horse on the nightstand curtains, open to let in what little sunlight the day offered. His gaze lingered on the framed photograph beside the bed. Kate, his late wife, laughing into the camera, her eyes alive with a joy he'd failed to protect. "I don't know how to do this, Katie," he whispered to the empty room. The sound of tires on gravel pulled him back to the present. Through the window, he watched a sleek black SUV roll to a stop. Sarah emerged first, tall like her mother, with the same determined set to her jaw, but with Noah's eyes. She wore city clothes, tailored slacks, a camel coat, boots unsuited for ranch life. Noah recognized the careful way she held herself armor against the vulnerability of returning home. Then came the child. Lily Morgan stood beside the car, small for her 11 years, her thin shoulders hunched beneath a dark blue coat. Her face, framed by straight black hair, was perfectly still, a porcelain mask betraying nothing of the storm that surely raged within. In her arms, she clutched a sketchbook, fingers white against its edges. Noah stepped onto the porch, willing himself to find the right words. There were none. "Hey, Dad," Sarah said, the formality in her voice a wall between them. "Sarah," and he nodded, then shifted his gaze to the child. "Hello, Lily." The girl didn't look up, didn't acknowledge his existence. Sarah placed a protective hand on her shoulder. "She's tired from the drive." Sarah explained, though they both knew it was more than fatigue that sealed the child's lips. Noah led them inside, watching as Lily's dark eyes took in the unfamiliar surroundings, cataloging escape routes perhaps, or simply measuring the strange new prison that would contain her grief. The silence that followed them was a fourth presence in the room, heavy and demanding. In the kitchen, Noah poured coffee for Sarah, set out a glass of orange juice for Lily that remained untouched. The adults spoke around the child as if she weren't there. About the weather, about Sarah's practice in Boston, about the ranch's neglected state. Careful words that skimmed the surface of deeper waters neither dared to disturb. "The hearing is scheduled for next month," Sarah finally said, lowering her voice. Child Services will want to see progress. Noah's cup paused halfway to his lips. I'm not a miracle worker. 6 months since the accident, Dad. 6 months without a word. Her doctors in Boston think a change of environment might help. Something away from the memories. And you brought her to a dying ranch with a bitter old man? The words escaped before he could catch them. Sarah's eyes, so like his own, hardened. You were the best trauma veterinarian on the West Coast once. Mom always said animals responded to you when they wouldn't trust anyone else. She glanced at Lily, who sat tracing the wood grain of the table with one small finger. And I'm out of options. Before Noah could respond, a commotion erupted from the direction of the barns. Angry shouts, the slam of a truck door, the nervous whinnying of horses. Noah rose instantly, years of responding to crises taking over. Sarah followed, and after a moment's hesitation, Lily slipped from her chair, trailing them at a distance. Outside, a gleaming black pickup with Blackwood Resorts emblazoned on the side idled near the corral. Beside it stood a man whose expensive clothes couldn't quite disguise the hardness beneath. Ethan Blackwood, local developer and former Olympic equestrian trainer, now returned to claim the valley that had once rejected him. His silver hair and tan face projected success and authority, but Noah knew the cruelty that lurked behind the polished veneer. Beside him, Max Wilson, the young ranch hand Noah had hired last summer, stood with arms crossed defensively. 3 men in county animal control uniforms completed the tense tableau. Barrett, Blackwood called, his voice carrying the forced joviality of a man used to getting his way. Quite the specimen you've got here. Shame he's too dangerous to keep. Noah approached slowly, aware of Sarah and Lily watching from the porch. In the corral behind the men, a magnificent horse paced the perimeter, coal black with a single white blaze down his face. The Tennessee Walker moved with unnatural vigilance, muscles tense beneath a coat that should have gleamed, but was instead dull with stress. A jagged scar marred the area around his right eye. Phantom isn't dangerous, Noah said evenly. He's traumatized. Blackwood's smile didn't reach his eyes. That animal attacked one of my men yesterday when he came to deliver your property tax notice. Nearly took his arm off. Your man shouldn't have been inside the corral, Max interjected, earning a sharp look from Blackwood. The county has regulations about dangerous animals. Blackwood continued, smoothly gesturing to the animal control officers, especially ones with a history. Sarah stepped forward. What history? This horse has been through 3 owners in the past year. Each returned him for aggressive behavior. Blackwood handed a folder to the lead officer. I'm simply concerned for public safety. As the chairman of the county commission, it's my responsibility. Noah recognized the calculated move for what it was. Another step in Blackwood's relentless campaign to acquire the remaining private lands in the valley for his luxury resort development. Broken Arrow's precarious finances were no secret. The back taxes alone would be enough to force a sale if Noah couldn't find a way to pay them. The law gives you 30 days to prove this animal isn't a danger, the lead officer said, sounding apologetic. After that, we'll have to take action. Meaning you'll put him down, Noah translated flatly. Or you can surrender him now, Blackwood suggested. I'd still be willing to discuss a fair price for your property, Barrett, before the county auctions it for taxes. Noah felt the familiar rage rising, the same that had driven him to the bottle after Kate's death. Get off my land, Blackwood. The developer's facade of friendliness evaporated. 30 days, Barrett. Then I'll have that horse, this ranch, and the last piece of my valley. He turned to leave, then paused, noticing Lily for the first time. Who's this? My client, Sarah said sharply. And none of your concern. Something flickered across Blackwood's face. Surprise, perhaps, or calculation. He nodded curtly and returned to his truck, the animal control officers following. As the vehicles disappeared down the drive, Noah turned to the corral where Phantom continued his restless pacing, dark eyes watching their every move. What happened yesterday? Sarah asked. Max shook his head. One of Blackwood's men came into the corral without permission. Phantom warned him, ears back, clear signals. The guy ignored it, raised his arm with the leather jacket and Phantom charge. Didn't actually touch him, just scared him out. Phantom. Sarah raised an eyebrow at the name. For the way he appeared, Max explained. Just showed up one morning at the edge of the property about 2 weeks ago. Half-starved, injury infected. Your dad's been working with him, but he trailed off, glancing at Noah. But he won't let me near him, Noah finished. Not close enough to treat that eye properly. A small movement caught their attention. Lily had silently approached the corral fence, standing just a few feet away. For the first time since arriving, her face had lost its carefully blank expression. She stared at Phantom with an intensity that seemed to reach across the space between them. The horse, sensing her presence, stopped his anxious pacing. His head turned slowly toward the child, nostrils flaring as he caught her scent. Noah tensed, ready to pull Lily back if necessary, but something in Phantom's demeanor had changed. The constant trembling in his muscles stilled. His ears, perpetually pinned back in suspicion, shifted forward with interest. For a long moment, child and horse regarded each other in perfect silence, two wounded souls recognizing something familiar in the other. Then Phantom snorted softly and turned away, resuming his patrol of the fence line, but with less urgency than before. Lily watched him for a moment longer, then wordlessly returned to the house. "Well," Sarah said quietly, "that's the most interest she's shown in anything since the accident." That night, as wind rattled the windows and rain began to fall, Noah sat at his kitchen table with paperwork spread before him. Bank notices, tax forms, veterinary bills. The evidence of a life coming undone. The flask beside him was empty, his thoughts increasingly blurred. In the guest room, he could hear Sarah's gentle voice as she tried to coax Lily into bed, met only with silence. When Sarah emerged, her professional composure had cracked, revealing the exhausted woman beneath. 6 months, she said, collapsing into the chair across from him. 6 months since the accident, and not a word, not a tear, just those drawings. She gestured toward the sketchbook Lily had left on the counter. Black spiral-bound pages filled with dark, jagged images that spoke of a mind in turmoil. How bad was it? Noah asked, the question he'd been avoiding since their arrival. Sarah's expression tightened. The car was hit broadside at an intersection. Her parents died instantly. Lily was trapped in the back seat for almost an hour before they got her out. She rubbed her temples. The guilt is the worst part. They were arguing about her piano recital, whether she was being pushed too hard. She believes it was her fault they weren't paying attention to the road. Noah nodded slowly. He understood guilt, how it could hollow you out, leave nothing but an empty shell going through the motions of living. Why hear Sarah? Why bring her to me? The question that had burned in him since her call 3 days ago. His daughter met his gaze, her eyes holding years of their own pain. Because she's like that horse out there. And once you knew how to reach creatures that everyone else had given up on. Noah looked away. That was before Kate. Before you chose a horse over being with Mom when she died? Sarah's voice cracked with years of resentment. Is that what you were going to say? The words hung between them, sharp and poisonous. Noah said nothing, knew there was nothing he could say to change what had happened 5 years ago. The emergency call about a valuable racehorse, his decision to respond, despite Kate's worsening condition, the text message that came too late as he stood in a stranger's stable. She's asking for you. Hurry. I shouldn't have said that, Sarah whispered, the fight leaving her. I'm sorry. No, you're right. Noah pushed himself to his feet, steadying himself against the table. I should check on the animals before this storm gets worse. Outside, the rain had intensified, driven sideways by gusting wind. Noah pulled his oilskin coat tighter, making his way through mud toward the barn. Inside, the familiar smells of hay and horse brought momentary comfort. Most of the stalls stood empty now. Remnants of the days when Broken Arrow had been a thriving rescue operation, when Kate had been alive to keep the books balanced and Noah's demons at bay. At the far end, in the largest stall, Phantom stood, alert eyes gleaming in the dim light. Noah checked the latches on the stall door, secure, but showing signs of the horse's earlier attempts to escape. Something about the coming storm had agitated him more than usual. Easy boy, Noah murmured, keeping his distance. It's just a little weather. Phantom's ears flicked at the sound of his voice, but remained wary. After 5 decades working with traumatized animals, Noah recognized the signs of severe abuse. The unnatural tension, the hypervigilance, the specific triggers that could send Phantom into a frenzy. Someone had done their best to break this magnificent animal's spirit through deliberate cruelty. A flicker of movement caught Noah's attention, a small shadow near the barn entrance. Lily stood just inside the doors, rain dripping from her coat onto the packed earth floor. In her hands, she held her sketchbook and a pencil. Noah watched as she silently made her way to a hay bale near Phantom's stall, far enough to be safe but close enough to observe. Without acknowledging Noah, she opened her book and began to draw. For a moment, Noah considered sending her back to the house, away from the potentially dangerous horse. But something in her quiet determination stopped him. Instead, he continued his chores, keeping a watchful eye on both child and horse as he moved about the barn. To his surprise, Phantom seemed to settle in Lily's presence. The constant shifting and snorting subsided. The horse moved to the side of the stall nearest her, not threatening but curious, watching as her pencil moved across the page. After finishing his work, Noah approached slowly. "It's getting late, Lily. The storm's picking up." She didn't respond, didn't look up from her drawing. On the page, Noah glimpsed the beginnings of Phantom's likeness. Not the jagged chaos of her other drawings, but something more deliberate, attentive to detail. "He likes you watching him," Noah said softly. "That's unusual. He doesn't trust easily." Lily's pencil paused, hovering over the page for a heartbeat before resuming its work. "I'll be inside if you need me," Noah said finally. "Don't stay out here too long." He left her there, this silent child drawing a wounded horse in a storm-battered barn, and wondered if Sarah was right to hope that broken creatures might somehow heal each other. Back in the house, Sarah sat at Kate's old desk in the study, surrounded by Noah's veterinary journals and reference books. She looked up as he entered, shoving a manila folder under a book. "Is Lily still in the barn?" she asked. Noah nodded. "She's drawing Phantom. First time I've seen her engage with anything." A small smile touched Sarah's lips. "That's progress. More than we've had in months. I'll give her a few more minutes, then bring her in." Noah gestured to the papers. "What are you looking for?" "Information on selective mutism in trauma cases," Sarah said, but her eyes slid away too quickly. "And I found your old research on equine therapy for veterans with PTSD. "Kate's research," Noah corrected. "She was the one who believed in it. I just provided the medical support." Sarah's fingers traced the edge of the hidden folder. "Dad, there's something else I need to tell you about why we're here." Before she could continue, a deafening crash of thunder shook the house. The lights flickered once, twice, then failed completely, plunging them into darkness, broken only by periodic flashes of lightning. "Generator should kick in," Noah muttered, reaching for the flashlight he kept in the desk drawer. When the emergency lights failed to appear, he cursed. "Must be flooded again. I'll check it." "Wait," Sarah said, rising quickly. "Where's Lily?" A sense of unease gripped Noah's chest. "Still in the barn, but I'll get her now." Together they hurried to the back door, flashlight cutting a weak path through the darkness. The wind had intensified, bending the old oak trees that lined the drive and driving the rain in horizontal sheets. Another lightning flash illuminated the property, revealing the barn door swinging wildly on its hinges. Inside, chaos greeted them. Hay scattered across the floor, tools knocked from walls and Phantom's stall. Empty, its door splintered outward as if the horse had kicked through in panic. "Lily!" Sarah called, her voice barely audible above the storm. "Lily!" Noah's flashlight beam swept the barn, finding Lily's sketchbook, abandoned on the hay bale, several pages torn out and scattered. But of the child herself, there was no sign. She must have gone after Phantom, Noah said, fighting to keep his voice calm as old instincts took over. "Max lives in the caretaker's cabin. Get him, form a search grid starting from here." "We need to call the sheriff," Sarah insisted, already pulling out her phone. "No service in this storm," Noah replied, grabbing an emergency kit from the wall. "And Phantom is already at risk of being destroyed. If they think he's run off with a child." Sarah's face hardened with sudden suspicion. "You think this is about saving that horse my patient is missing?" "I think it's about saving both of them," Noah snapped. "I've tracked injured animals through worse. Get Max, take the north quadrant. I'll head east toward the ridge caves." Without waiting for her response, Noah plunged back into the storm flashlight beam, bobbing as he moved toward the eastern pastures. The rain plastered his hair to his skull, soaked through his coat, until he could no longer feel the difference between the storm outside and the fear coursing through him. As he slogged through mud and overgrown grass, Noah's mind raced through possibilities. Phantom had seemed calmer with Lily than with anyone else, but the horse was still profoundly traumatized. If startled or triggered, he could be lethal to a small child, regardless of any tentative connection. An hour into the search with no sign of either horse or child, Noah's strength began to flag. His boots filled with water and mud felt like concrete blocks. The cold had penetrated to his bones, and the familiar craving for alcohol's false warmth gnawed at him. "Give me something, Katie," he whispered into the wind. "Help me find her." As if in answer, a distant sound caught his attention. Not the crash of thunder or the howl of wind, but something else. Noah stilled, straining to hear. There it came again. A horse's distressed whinny, faint but distinct, coming from the direction of the ridge. Noah changed course, pushing himself toward the limestone formations that marked the eastern boundary of his property. The land rose sharply here, dotted with shallow caves that Kate had once mapped as part of a local conservation project. Near the largest of these formations, Noah's flashlight caught a glimpse of movement, a dark shape disappearing into the mouth of a cave. Heart pounding, he scrambled up the slippery incline, calling out, "Lily, Phantom!" At the cave entrance, Noah paused to catch his breath, listening. From within came the unmistakable sound of a horse shifting its weight, hooves scraping against stone. "Lily!" Noah called again, softer now, directing his flashlight into the darkness. The beam revealed Phantom, first standing alert in the relatively dry interior, ears pricked forward at Noah's voice. And there, huddled against the horse's flank, sat Lily, soaked to the skin, arms wrapped around her knees but apparently unharmed. Most astonishing of all, Phantom made no aggressive move as Noah entered the cave. Instead, the horse lowered his head toward Lily in an almost protective gesture. "It's okay," Noah said, keeping his voice calm, despite his racing heart. "You're safe now." Lily's eyes, huge in her pale face, met his without recognition, as if she were still lost in whatever silent world she inhabited. But she was alive, unharmed. "I need to get you back to your aunt." Noah continued, taking a careful step forward. "She's worried about you." Phantom's ears twitched, but the animal remained calm as Noah slowly approached. Years of experience told him to move with deliberate care, to telegraph every movement, to respect the space between himself and a frightened animal. When he was within arm's reach of Lily, Noah crouched down, making himself smaller. "Can you come with me? It's not safe to stay here." For a long moment, the child didn't move. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. Noah reached out a hand, and after another hesitation, Lily took it. Her fingers were ice cold in his grasp. As he helped her to her feet, Phantom shifted nervously, but made no threatening move. "Good boy," Noah whispered to the horse, reconnecting with instincts long buried. "Easy now." To his surprise, Lily raised her free hand toward Phantom's scarred face. The horse lowered his head, allowing the child to touch his velvety muzzle for the briefest moment. A connection that seemed to transcend the chaos around them. Then a particularly violent gust of wind drove rain into the cave, spooking Phantom. The horse reared slightly, backing deeper into the cave. Noah pulled Lily toward the entrance, knowing better than to push their luck. "We'll come back for him," he promised, though he wasn't sure if he was speaking to Lily or to himself. The return journey was grueling. Noah carried Lily part of the way when her strength flagged, her small body shivering violently against his chest. Relief flooded through him when the lights of the ranch house finally appeared through the rain. The generator must have been restarted. Sarah burst through the door as they approached, her face transformed by fear and relief. "Oh my God, Lily!" She rushed forward, gathering the child into her arms. "Where was she? Is she hurt?" "East Ridge Caves." Noah managed his own exhaustion, finally catching up with him. "She's cold, but I don't think she's injured. Phantom was with her." "Sortie the horse." Sarah's eyes widened as she hustled Lily toward the house. "Max, get towels and the emergency kit." Inside, they worked quickly to get Lily warm and dry. The child submitted to their ministrations in the same silence that had accompanied everything else, but Noah noticed something different in her eyes. A presence that hadn't been there before, as if some part of her had returned from wherever it had retreated after the accident. Later, with Lily tucked into bed and finally sleeping, Sarah joined Noah in the kitchen, where he sat nursing a cup of coffee instead of his usual whiskey. "She could have died out there," Sarah said, her voice hollow with the aftermath of fear. But she didn't. Noah looked up at his daughter. She found shelter. Or Phantom did. Sarah sank into a chair. I've never seen anything like it. A traumatized animal protecting her like that. Sir, they recognize something in each other, Noah said quietly. Broken recognizes broken. The words hung between them, carrying more weight than either acknowledged. Sarah fidgeted with a loose thread on her sleeve, then seemed to come to a decision. I wasn't completely honest about why we're here, she admitted. Yes, Lily needs help, and yes, I thought your experience might help her. But there's more. She pulled out the manila folder she'd hidden earlier. This came to my office 2 weeks ago. No return address. Noah opened the folder to find grainy photographs, surveillance images of Broken Arrow Ranch, shots of Noah working with Phantom, images of Sarah at her Boston office. Beneath them lay a newspaper clipping about a fatal car accident 6 months earlier. Local piano prodigy orphaned in tragic collision. Someone's watching us, Sarah continued, and connecting us to Lily's case, though I've been careful to keep her identity protected in my practice. Noah frowned, examining the photos more closely. These ranch shots were taken recently, within the last 2 weeks since Phantom arrived. Turn to the last page, Sarah said. The final photo showed Kate, Noah's late wife, Sarah's mother, standing beside a younger Ethan Blackwood. Between them stood a coal-black horse with a distinctive white blaze. Unmistakably Phantom, though younger and uninjured. That's not possible, Noah whispered. Kate never worked with Blackwood. She despised his training methods. Then why does he have a file on her? Sarah pressed. And why would someone send this to me, connecting Mom to Lily's case? Noah stared at the photo, mind racing. Where's Max? He needs to check on Phantom, make sure he hasn't broken through any fences. He's already gone back out. Sarah studied her father's face. What aren't you telling me? Noah hesitated, then rose from the table. There's something you need to see. He led Sarah to a storage room off the main barn, a space he hadn't entered in the 5 years since Kate's death. Dust-covered shelves lined with Kate's research materials, journals, videotapes, carefully labeled specimens from the conservation work that had been her passion. Noah pulled out a key he'd kept on his chain, unlocking a metal filing cabinet in the corner. Your mother was working on something before she died, he explained, voice rough with suppressed emotion. She never showed me all of it. Said it was safer if I didn't know. From the bottom drawer, he extracted a waterproof case containing an old external hard drive and a leather-bound journal. She left this for when the time came, whatever that meant. I could never bring myself to look. Sarah took the journal with careful hands, opening it to reveal Kate's familiar handwriting. The first page contained only one line. When Phantom returns, the truth must follow. Dad, Sarah whispered, what does this mean? Before Noah could answer, a shout came from outside. They rushed to the barn entrance where Max stood drenched and agitated. Phantom's gone, he panted. Broke through the east fence. And there's something else. I found this caught on the wire. He held out a torn piece of expensive leather, part of a jacket or glove, with a small embossed logo barely visible in the dim light, the stylized B of Blackwood Resorts. Someone spooked him deliberately. Noah said, the pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. Someone who knew exactly what would trigger him. Back in the house, they found Lily standing in the hallway, eyes wide with fear or knowledge. Noah couldn't tell which. For the first time since her arrival, the child's perfect mask of silence cracked. Her lips parted and a sound emerged. Not quite a word, but a soft, desperate keening that chilled Noah's blood more than any storm. In that moment, looking from the child to the photo of Kate with Phantom to the fragment of Blackwood's world caught on his fence, Noah understood with perfect clarity the 30-day reprieve was a sham. Whatever connected these broken pieces, Horse Child, the ghost of his wife, the ambitions of Ethan Blackwood, had been set in motion long before Phantom appeared at his ranch. Dawn broke reluctantly over Broken Arrow Ranch, pale light seeping through clouds that hung low and heavy with the promise of more rain. Noah stood at the eastern fence line surveying the damage from the previous night's storm. The wooden posts had been pushed outward, not broken through in panic, but deliberately loosened. Evidence of human interference that confirmed his suspicions. Max crouched nearby, examining hoof prints in the mud. He headed northeast, the young man said, pointing toward the tree line that marked the border between Noah's property and Blackwood's extensive holdings. But the rains washed away most of the trail. Noah nodded, eyes following the direction of the prints until they disappeared. In the harsh morning light, exhaustion etched deep lines in his face. He hadn't slept, spending the night poring over Kate's journal with Sarah, piecing together fragments of a story neither had known existed. "We need to find him before Blackwood's people do," Noah said quietly. Max stood brushing mud from his jeans. "What's the connection between your wife and that horse?" Noah hesitated, weighing trust against caution. Max had proven himself dependable in the years since Noah hired him, but Kate's journal had made it clear that discretion had been a matter of life and death. "5 years ago, my wife was documenting cases of animal abuse in professional training circuits," Noah finally said. "Phantom may have been one of those cases. It wasn't the whole truth, but it was all Noah was prepared to share until he knew more." Max seemed to sense the omission but didn't press. "I'll take the ATV along the eastern ridge," the young man offered. "Cover more ground that way." "Be careful," Noah warned. "And if you see any of Blackwood's security, stay clear. This isn't just about trespassing anymore." As Max departed, Noah turned back toward the house, his boots heavy with mud and dread. Inside, he found Sarah at the kitchen table, Kate's journal open, before her hair pulled back in a hasty ponytail that emphasized the shadows beneath her eyes. "Anything?" she asked, looking up as he entered. Noah shook his head. "Max is searching the eastern section. I need to check on Lily, then join him." "She's still sleeping," Sarah gestured to the journal. "Dad, this goes deeper than we thought. Mom was building a case against Blackwood for years, documenting his training methods, tracking horses that came through his program. Kate never told me she was investigating Blackwood specifically," Noah said, pouring coffee with hands that weren't quite steady. "She mentioned concerns about certain training operations, but never names." "She was protecting you," Sarah said. "Listen to this entry from 5 years ago, and must remain uninvolved. His reputation in the veterinary community is our only shield against B's influence. If the evidence disappears, N will be the backup witness." Noah closed his eyes, remembering the fights during those final months of Kate's life, her increasing secrecy, his frustration at being shut out. He'd attributed it to the strain of her illness, never imagining she was carrying this additional burden. "There's more," Sarah continued, turning pages. "She specifically mentions a black Tennessee Walker with a white blaze, Phantom, as the key to everything. She calls him the one who remembers." "Remembers what?" Noah asked. "She doesn't say explicitly, but there are references to video evidence, something on that external hard drive we found." Sarah glanced at the device connected to her laptop. "I'm still trying to access the files. They're encrypted." A small sound from the hallway interrupted them. Lily stood in the doorway, fully dressed, despite the early hour, her sketchbook clutched to her chest. Her eyes moved from Noah to Sarah, then to the open journal on the table. "Good morning, Lily," Sarah said, switching seamlessly to her professional voice. "Did you sleep okay?" The child's expression remained unchanged, but she moved purposefully to the table, setting down her sketchbook and opening it to a new drawing. Unlike her previous dark, chaotic sketches, this one showed Phantom with remarkable clarity, standing in the cave, head raised as if listening. In the background, barely visible, was the outline of a woman's face. Noah and Sarah exchanged glances. "Is this what you saw last night?" Sarah asked gently. Lily didn't respond verbally, but her finger tapped the woman's face insistently. "Who is that, Lily?" Sarah pressed. "Someone you know." The child's frustration was evident as she struggled to communicate something beyond her self-imposed silence. Finally, she flipped to a fresh page and wrote in careful, precise letters, "Find him." "We're trying to find Phantom," Noah assured her. "Max is out looking right now." Lily shook her head vigorously, writing again, "He knows." "Knows what, sweetie?" Sarah asked, slipping into the gentle tone she used with her most traumatized patients. But Lily had retreated back into silence, returning to her drawing with intense focus, adding details to the shadowy woman's face. High cheekbones, kind eyes, a familiar smile that made Noah's heart constrict painfully. "I need to join the search," he said abruptly, unable to look at the emerging likeness any longer. "Keep trying with that hard drive." Outside, Noah paused on the porch, struggling to collect himself. The face taking shape under Lily's pencil had been unmistakably Kate's, a woman the child had never met whose photograph she'd seen only briefly in the bedroom. Yet another impossible connection in a growing web of them. Noah took the second ATV heading northwest toward an area of the property Kate had particularly loved, a small meadow surrounded by aspen trees that turned gold in autumn. It was a long shot, but instinct drove him there, the same instinct that had once made him one of the most sought-after trauma veterinarians on the West Coast. The meadow was empty when he arrived, but Noah cut the engine and dismounted anyway, needing a moment to think clearly. The aspens whispered above him, a few stubborn, golden leaves still clinging to mostly bare branches. "What were you involved in, Katie?" He murmured to the trees, to the memory of his wife that seemed suddenly more present than it had in years. "What did you find that was worth hiding from me?" No answer came but the continued rustle of the aspens. Noah closed his eyes, forcing his mind to work the problem methodically. If Phantom had been part of Kate's investigation into Blackwood, and if that investigation had uncovered something damaging enough to conceal, then Blackwood's current interest in the horse went beyond simple revenge or land acquisition. He was afraid of what Phantom's return might reveal. But how did Lily fit into this puzzle, a traumatized child with no connection to Wallowa Valley, until Sarah brought her here for treatment? Unless... Noah's eyes snapped open as realization struck. He scrambled back onto the ATV, racing toward the house with newfound urgency. He found Sarah in the study, still working on the encrypted hard drive, Lily sitting nearby with her drawings. "I need to see the information on Lily's accident," Noah said without preamble. "Everything you have on her parents." Sarah blinked in surprise. "Why?" "Just a hunch." Noah paced the small room. "Their names, occupations, anything about their background?" Sarah hesitated, glancing at Lily, who seemed absorbed in her drawing. "Robert and Jennifer Morgan. He was a financial analyst. She taught music at Berkeley. They were in Boston for Lily's piano competition when the accident happened." "Berkeley," Noah repeated. "California, where Kate did her graduate work in environmental science." Sarah's eyes widened with understanding. "You think there's a connection between Mom and Lily's parents?" "I think we need to check," Noah said. "Kate kept records of everyone who helped with her research. There might be names, contacts." As they searched through Kate's old files, the encrypted hard drive finally yielded to Sarah's efforts. A notification chimed from her laptop. "I'm in," she announced, clicking through the newly accessible folders. "It's mostly video files, organized by date." Noah joined her at the screen as she opened the earliest file. The video showed a training arena. Not at Blackwood's current facility, but an older setup Noah vaguely remembered from when Blackwood had first returned to the valley a decade ago. A young black horse with a white blaze was being worked on a lunge line by a handler whose face remained off camera. "That's Phantom," Noah confirmed. "Much younger, but it's him." The training session seemed normal at first, standard desensitization exercises for a young horse. But as the video progressed, the methods became increasingly harsh. The handler used excessive force, deliberately creating fear responses only to punish them. Noah watched with growing horror as the young Phantom was systematically broken down, his natural responses distorted through pain and confusion. "This is torture," Sarah whispered. "Not training." The video cut abruptly to a different angle, apparently from a hidden camera. This one showed the handler's face clearly, Ethan Blackwood, years younger, but unmistakable, speaking to someone off camera. "Market for specialized responses," Blackwood was saying. "Military applications, crowd control. A horse that attacks on command is worth 10 times a show jumper." The other person moved into frame, a woman with her back to the camera, dark hair pulled into a ponytail. "And if the Olympic Committee learns about your methods," she asked, voice deliberately casual. "They won't," Blackwood replied with chilling confidence. "The right people have already been compensated for their discretion. Same offer extends to observers, Dr. Barrett." The woman turned slightly, her profile briefly visible. Kate, years younger, but unmistakably Noah's wife. "I'll consider it," she said, voice revealing nothing of her true intentions. The video ended there. Sarah immediately opened the next file, dated 3 weeks later. This one showed Kate alone in what appeared to be her office at the ranch, speaking directly to the camera. "This is Dr. Catherine Barrett, continuing documentation of the Blackwood operation." she began, her expression grave. What began as an investigation into training abuses has uncovered something far more disturbing. Blackwood isn't just training horses for competition, he's creating weaponized animals for private security firms, possibly foreign military applications. She held up a folder. The financial records show payments from shell companies linked to known defense contractors and at least 2 foreign governments with questionable human rights records. I've transferred this evidence to secure storage with Jennifer Morgan at Berkeley, who's running forensic analysis on the banking connections. Noah and Sarah exchanged shocked glances at the mention of Lily's mother. Kate continued, "The key witness remains the Tennessee Walker designated Phantom Project Asset 7. This horse has been conditioned to react violently to specific triggers. Certain movements, sounds, even the smell of particular leather treatments used by crowd control units. But the conditioning is breaking down. The horse is remembering its original nature, fighting the programming." She leaned closer to the camera, voice dropping. "I believe this animal could prove these methods don't work reliably, which would destroy the value of Blackwood's entire program. I plan to document the deconditioning process once the horse is secure." The video ended. Sarah quickly opened the next one, dated just 2 weeks before Kate's death. This Kate looked noticeably thinner, the effects of her advancing illness evident in her hollowed cheeks and the careful way she held herself. "Final update on the Blackwood case," she said without preamble. "Phantom has been successfully removed from the facility following the training accident that injured Blackwood's right-hand man. The horse is safe at Elena Ramirez's sanctuary in Northern California until arrangements can be made for permanent placement." Kate's expression hardened. "Blackwood knows I was involved. He's made threats, implied accidents happen to people who interfere with his business. I've dispersed all evidence to secure locations. Jennifer has the financial data, Elena has Phantom and the training documentation, and this drive contains the video evidence of the operation." She took a deep breath. "If you're watching this, something has gone wrong. Find Phantom. He's the living proof of everything Blackwood did. The trigger response to black leather jackets, the scarring patterns, the specific reactivity. It's all documented in the vet records Elena has. And most importantly, find Jennifer Morgan. She's the only one who can trace the money all the way back to the source." The video ended abruptly, leaving a silence heavy with implications. "Mom never died of cancer, did she?" Sarah finally whispered. "Or at least not just cancer." "She was very sick," Noah said, his voice hollow. "Terminal diagnosis, 3 months at most. But she never let illness slow her down, not when she was fighting for something she believed in." Shio. And Lily's parents. Sarah turned to look at the child who had abandoned her drawing and was watching them intently, as if understanding far more than her silence suggested. "A random car accident 6 months ago. We need to talk to Elena Ramirez," Noah decided. "If she had Phantom before, she might know how he ended up back here." A sharp knock at the front door interrupted them. Through the window, Noah glimpsed a county sheriff's vehicle in the driveway. He gestured for Sarah to stay with Lily while he answered. Sheriff Tom Jenkins stood on the porch, expression grim beneath his department-issue hat. The two men had known each other for decades, had once been friends before Noah's withdrawal after Kate's death. "Noah," Jenkins nodded. "Got a report about a missing horse. Dangerous animal from what I hear." "He's not dangerous, Tom," Noah replied evenly. "Just traumatized. And he didn't go missing. Someone deliberately released him during the storm." Jenkins raised an eyebrow. "That's a serious accusation." "I have evidence of tampering with my fence line. Max can show you." The sheriff shifted uncomfortably. "Look, Noah, I'm just doing my job here. Blackwood's filed a formal complaint, claims the animal attacked one of his men yesterday." "Blackwood's lying," Noah stated flatly. "He wants my land, and he's using Phantom as leverage." "Shinonot." "Maybe so," Jenkins conceded. "But I still need to file a report on the missing animal. And I should warn you, if that horse is found off your property and deemed a threat, County Animal Control has authorization to take immediate action." The implication was clear. Phantom would be destroyed. "Give me time to find him." "Tom," Noah urged. "He's valuable evidence in a case my wife was building before she died." Something flickered in Jenkins' eyes. Surprise or perhaps guilt. "Kate's been gone 5 years, Noah. And Blackwood's been waiting exactly that long to make his move on this valley," Noah countered. "It's not a coincidence." The sheriff studied him for a long moment. You've got 24 hours before I have to file the report. After that, it's out of my hands. He turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I always thought there was something off about Kate's accident. Car going off Prospect Ridge in perfect weather, no mechanical failures. Sure, Wade. Noah's blood ran cold. What are you saying, Tom? Just that I'm glad Sarah's back, Jenkins replied cryptically. Family should stick together when trouble comes around. With a nod, he returned to his vehicle and drove away. Inside, Noah found Sarah already gathering supplies and checking her phone. I've got Elena Ramirez's number from Mom's contacts, she explained. She still runs the sanctuary in California. And I found something else in Mom's journal, a map reference for something called the Meditation Stone. Up on the North Ridge, Noah said immediately. Kate used to go there to think, said the energy was clearer there. He hadn't visited the spot since her death, another memory too painful to revisit. Could Phantom have gone there? Sarah asked. If he associated it with Mom, it's possible. Horses have incredible memory for places associated with safety. Noah turned to find Lily standing in the doorway, watching them intently. Do you want to come with us to look for Phantom? The child nodded already, reaching for her coat. I'll try Elena while you're searching, Sarah decided, and keep working through these files. There might be more connections we're missing. The North Ridge Trail was steep and slippery from the recent rain, forcing Noah to proceed slowly, with Lily following close behind. Despite her small size, the child moved with surprising determination, navigating the difficult terrain without complaint. Your aunt says you were quite the piano player, Noah said after they'd been walking in silence for some time. I used to play guitar back in college. Nothing fancy, just enough to impress Kate when we were dating. Lily gave no indication she'd heard him, her eyes fixed on the path ahead. Kate loved music too, Noah continued. She said it was the purest form of communication beyond words. He glanced at the silent child beside him. Sometimes words fail us, especially for the biggest feelings. Something flickered across Lily's face, a brief crack in her perfect mask of silence. They reached the meditation stone just before noon, a natural formation that created a flat, chair-like surface overlooking the valley. From this vantage point, Noah could see most of Broken Arrow Ranch, and beyond it, the gleaming modern buildings of Blackwood's expanding resort complex. Kate used to say you could feel the whole valley breathing up here, Noah told Lily. All the connections between living things visible if you knew how to look. The child moved to the stone, running her small hand over its wind-smooth surface. Then unexpectedly, she sat down, closed her eyes, and became perfectly still. A miniature mirror of Kate's meditation posture that made Noah's throat tighten with emotion. He scanned the surrounding area for signs of Phantom, but found nothing. The horse hadn't come this way, at least not recently enough to leave tracks in the damp soil. As he turned back to suggest they continue searching elsewhere, Noah froze. Lily's eyes were open, but her focus was distant, fixed on something beyond the physical landscape before them. Her lips moved silently, as if in conversation with someone only she could perceive. Lily. Noah approached carefully, unsure whether to interrupt whatever was happening. The child blinked, returning to the present. She reached for her ever-present sketchbook, writing quickly, Water Cave? Water Cave. Noah frowned. Do you mean the spring cave on the east property line? Lily nodded vigorously, pointing in that direction with urgency. You think Phantom is there? Noah asked, trying to understand. Did you see something? Instead of answering, Lily stood and began making her way back down the trail, clearly expecting Noah to follow. He hurried after her, equal parts confused and intrigued by this new development. The spring cave was nearly 2 miles from the meditation stone, a natural limestone formation where an underground stream emerged briefly before disappearing back into the earth. Kate had discovered it during her conservation surveys, documenting the rare species of blind salamanders that lived in its depths. As they approached, Noah caught the unmistakable scent of horse, manure, sweat, the particular musk of a stressed animal. Phantom had indeed been here and recently. Stay back, Noah cautioned Lily as they neared the cave entrance. He might be injured or frightened. To his surprise, the child ignored him completely, moving directly toward the dark opening with the confidence of someone approaching a trusted friend. Before Noah could stop her, she disappeared inside. Lily! He called, hurrying after her with his heart in his throat. The interior was dim, but not completely dark, illuminated by patches of light filtering through cracks in the limestone ceiling. The sound of flowing water echoed softly from deeper within. Noah found Lily standing absolutely still in the center of the main chamber. Phantom was there, drinking from the clear pool where the spring bubbled up from underground. The horse's head lifted at Noah's entrance ears, flicking forward with recognition rather than fear. More surprising still was his calm acceptance of Lily's presence mere feet away. "Easy, boy," Noah murmured, freezing in place to avoid triggering the horse's defensive responses. "We've been looking for you." To his astonishment, Lily extended her hand toward Phantom, palm up in perfect horse language. An invitation, not a demand. The animal regarded her for a long moment, nostrils flaring to catch her scent, then lowered his head to touch her palm with his muzzle. The horseman's handshake, a gesture of extraordinary trust from an animal with every reason to trust no one. Noah watched in wonder as the child stroked Phantom's scarred face with gentle fingers, standing tiptoe to reach higher. There was something almost mystical in the connection between them, as if they communicated in a language beyond words or physical gestures. "How did you know he would be here?" Noah asked softly. Lily didn't turn away from Phantom, but her free hand moved to touch the small locket hanging around her neck, a detail Noah hadn't noticed before. With deliberate care, she opened it, revealing not a photograph as he'd expected, but a tiny coil of reddish-brown hair. "Is that yours?" Noah asked, confused. Lily shook her head, touching the horse's mane, then the locket again. "Horse hair," Noah guessed, understanding dawning. "From Phantom." A slight nod accompanied by the first real smile he'd seen on the child's face. Small and fragile, but undeniably there. "But how did you get it?" Noah pressed, mind racing. "You never met Phantom before coming here." Lily returned to Phantom, communicating something to the horse through touch that Noah couldn't interpret. Then she reached for her sketchbook, writing a single word that sent a chill down Noah's spine. "Mommy, your mother gave you that locket?" Noah asked carefully, pieces falling into place with dizzying speed. "With Phantom's hair inside?" Lily nodded, writing again. She said, "Remember." "Remember what?" Noah whispered. The child frowned in concentration, struggling to express concepts beyond her limited written vocabulary. Finally, she drew a quick sketch. A horse and a woman with lines connecting them to a small figure that must be Lily herself. Beneath it, she wrote, "All connected." Noah's mind raced through implications. If Jennifer Morgan had given her daughter a locket containing Phantom's hair, the connection between Kate's investigation and Lily's family went far deeper than merely sharing research. It suggested Jennifer had been actively involved in protecting Phantom, perhaps had even seen the horse in person. "Lily," Noah said gently, "did you ever meet Phantom before coming here? Maybe when you were very young." The child's brow furrowed in concentration. She touched her temple, then shook her head. Not a denial, but an indication she couldn't remember clearly. "It's okay," Noah assured her. "We'll figure it out together." Turning his attention to Phantom, Noah assessed the horse's condition with a professional eye. The animal was muddy and had several minor scrapes from his escape, but appeared otherwise unharmed. Most remarkably, he seemed calmer than Noah had ever seen him, as if finding Lily had somehow settled something within his traumatized spirit. "We need to get him back to the ranch," Noah decided. "It's not safe for him out here, not with Blackwood's people searching." But how to move a skittish, traumatized horse with no halter or lead rope was a significant challenge. Noah considered returning to the ranch for equipment, but that would mean leaving Phantom unprotected, a risk he wasn't willing to take. To his surprise, Lily solved the problem by simply walking toward the cave entrance, then turning back to gesture Phantom forward. The horse watched her for a moment, then followed with remarkable willingness, staying close to the child as they emerged into the afternoon light. "Well, I'll be damned," Noah murmured, witnessing a level of trust he'd spent decades developing with injured animals achieved by this silent child in mere days. The journey back to the ranch was slow but uneventful, with Lily leading the way and Phantom following like an oversized dog. Noah kept a watchful distance behind, alert for any signs of Blackwood's security patrols or triggers that might spook the horse. As they crested the final hill overlooking Broken Arrow, Noah spotted an unfamiliar vehicle parked beside Sarah's SUV, an older model Jeep covered in dust from long-distance travel. A woman stood on the porch talking with Sarah, her dark hair streaked with silver, her posture radiating tension even from a distance. "That must be Elena Ramirez," Noah said. "Your aunt found her." At the sound of the name, Phantom's head lifted sharply, ears pricked forward with clear recognition. The horse quickened his pace, moving ahead of Lily for the first time. "Easy," Noah cautioned, but the animal wasn't displaying fear. Instead, he seemed eager, almost joyful as he approached the ranch at a ground-covering walk. The woman on the porch turned at their approach, her hand flying to her mouth in astonishment. "Dios mío," she exclaimed. "It really is him." Elena Ramirez was in her early 60s with the weathered complexion of someone who'd spent a lifetime outdoors and sharp brown eyes that missed nothing. She moved toward Phantom with the confident grace of an experienced horsewoman, speaking softly in Spanish, terms of endearment and welcome that the horse seemed to understand, lowering his head to her outstretched hand. "I never thought I'd see him again," Elena said, emotion thickening her accent. "Not after what happened." "No," which was what exactly, Noah asked, positioning himself protectively near Lily. Elena's gaze shifted to the child, surprise registering on her features. "Who is this?" "Lily Morgan," Sarah supplied, joining them. "Jennifer Morgan's daughter." Something complicated passed across Elena's face. Recognition, grief, and a flash of fear quickly suppressed. "Jennifer's girl. But how?" "It's a long story," Sarah said. "One we're still piecing together ourselves. But it seems Mom was connecting a lot of dots before she died, and those dots somehow link Phantom Blackwood and Lily's family." Elena nodded slowly. "Your mother was a remarkable woman, Dr. Barrett. She saw connections others missed." She turned to Noah. "May we speak inside? What I have to tell you shouldn't be overheard." As they settled in the kitchen, Lily remained outside with Phantom visible through the window as she sat beside the corral where the horse now grazed peacefully. "First, you should know I've been followed," Elena began without preamble. "I took precautions, switched vehicles twice, but Blackwood's reach is long. We don't have much time." "Start from the beginning," Noah urged. "How did you know Kate?" "We met at a veterinary conference in San Francisco about 8 years ago," Elena explained. "I run a sanctuary for abused horses in Northern California. Kate was presenting research on physical markers of psychological trauma in equines. She was brilliant, seeing patterns others missed." Elena accepted the coffee Sarah offered her, hands showing a slight tremor. "About a year later, she contacted me about a specific case, a young Tennessee walker being trained using methods she considered abusive and possibly illegal. The horse was part of what Blackwood called his specialized response program." "We found Kate's videos," Sarah interjected. "The conditioning using pain and fear triggers." Elena nodded grimly. Blackwood was essentially creating equine weapons. Horses trained to attack specific targets on command, to react with aggression to particular stimuli. Highly valuable to certain private security firms and foreign military interests with fewer ethical constraints than our own. But Phantom was different, Noah guessed. Yes, despite everything they did to him, he retained what Kate called core memory. His essential nature kept reasserting itself. He would comply during training, then revert to his natural temperament afterward. Kate believed this proved the entire program was fundamentally flawed. "So she stole him," Sarah concluded. "Rescued him," Elena corrected, "with Jennifer Morgan's help." Jennifer was a music professor, but her husband Robert worked in financial forensics, specializing in tracking money laundering schemes. He traced Blackwood's funding to some very disturbing sources. "And Kate arranged for Phantom to go to your sanctuary." Noah said, pieces falling into place. Elena's expression darkened. "Yes, but he wasn't safe there either. 3 months after Kate's death, men broke into my facility. They tranquilized Phantom and loaded him into a trailer, but something went wrong. The dose was too high. The horse collapsed. They must have thought he was dying." "When was this?" Noah asked. 5 years ago, a few months after Kate died," Elena replied. "I reported it, but local law enforcement did nothing. Blackwood has powerful friends." So how did Phantom end up back here? Sarah pressed. I don't know, Elena admitted. I thought he was dead until your call this morning. When you described him, the white blaze, the scar by his right eye, I knew it had to be him. Sarah leaned forward. And what about Jennifer Morgan? How deeply was she involved? Very, Elena said gravely. She had all the financial evidence connecting Blackwood to foreign military contractors. After Kate died, Jennifer wanted to go public, but I convinced her to wait to prepare properly. She swallowed hard. We were supposed to meet last year to finally release everything, but then I heard about the car accident, which might not have been an accident at all, Noah concluded grimly. And somehow, in the middle of all this, Phantom finds his way back to Broken Arrow, Sarah added, just as Blackwood is making his final move to acquire the property. And Lily arrives carrying a locket with Phantom's hair. Noah finished nodding toward the window where the child sat beside the corral, forming an instant connection with a horse she shouldn't know but somehow does. Elena followed his gaze, understanding dawning on her features. The locket was Kate's idea, she revealed. A physical connection, something to remember the truth by if words became too dangerous. Jennifer must have given it to her daughter. But what is the truth? Sarah asked, frustration evident in her voice. What exactly did Mom and the Morgans uncover that was worth killing for? Before Elena could answer, a sharp cry from outside shattered the moment. Noah was on his feet, instantly rushing toward the window. Outside, Lily had backed away from the corral, fear evident even from a distance. Phantom was no longer calm, but pacing nervously, head high and ears pinned back in alarm. And approaching down the long driveway, a cloud of dust rising behind them, were 3 black SUVs, with the Blackwood Resorts logo emblazoned on their sides. They found us, Elena whispered, fear and resignation mingling in her voice. In the growing chaos of the moment, Sarah gathering Kate's research materials, Elena moving to help Lily, Noah reaching for the shotgun he kept by the back door, no one noticed the small laptop screen still open on the kitchen table. On it, the final frames of Kate's last video played in silence, a close-up of her face-mouth, forming words that might have changed everything had anyone been watching. The black SUVs came to a stop in a perfect triangle formation before the main house, dust settling slowly around their gleaming exteriors. Noah stood on the porch, shotgun held loosely at his side, not raised but unmistakably present. Behind him, Sarah positioned herself in the doorway, one hand on Lily's shoulder, the other clutching Kate's external hard drive. Ethan Blackwood emerged from the lead vehicle, immaculate in a tailored charcoal suit despite the rural setting. At 58, he carried himself with the cultivated authority of a man accustomed to obedience, silver hair, perfectly styled smile, practiced to the precise degree of warmth necessary to disarm without revealing genuine emotion. Barrett, he called, approaching with calculated confidence. Is this really necessary? He gestured to the shotgun. 3 vehicles of armed security on my property, Noah replied evenly. I'd say it's entirely necessary. Blackwood's smile didn't waver. Merely precautionary. I understand you've recovered the animal in question, and I've brought the county animal control officers to resolve the situation. He gestured toward the second SUV where 2 uniformed officers waited. There's no situation to resolve, Noah stated. Phantom is secure on my property under my care as a licensed veterinarian. A retired veterinarian, Blackwood corrected smoothly, with documented alcohol issues since your wife's unfortunate passing. Hardly the ideal caretaker for a dangerous animal. Noah felt Sarah tense behind him, knew she was restraining herself from engaging directly. They had agreed on their strategy in the frantic minutes after spotting Blackwood's approach. Noah would handle the immediate confrontation while Sarah secured the evidence and Elena got Lily to safety. State your business or get off my land. Noah said, his voice betraying none of the calculations racing through his mind. Blackwood sighed theatrically. Always so direct, Barrett. Very well. He produced an official-looking document from his jacket. This is an emergency order for the destruction of a dangerous animal signed by Judge Mercer this morning after your horse attacked one of my security personnel yesterday. That's a lie, Noah countered. Your man entered the corral unauthorized and deliberately provoked the horse. A distinction without a difference to the law, Blackwood replied. The animal has demonstrated aggressive behavior toward humans. The order is quite clear. Noah's grip tightened on the shotgun. We both know what this is really about, Blackwood. The same thing it's been about for 5 years. What Kate discovered about your operation. For the first time, Blackwood's composed expression flickered surprise, quickly masked by renewed confidence. Kate was a troubled woman toward the end, Barrett. The illness affected her mind. Whatever conspiracy theories she concocted. We have the videos, Sarah interrupted, stepping forward. All of them. The training sessions, the meetings with foreign buyers, the financial transactions. Blackwood's gaze shifted to her, then to Lily, and something dark moved behind his eyes. Dr. Chen, how unexpected to see you here. I understood you were building quite a successful practice in Boston, far from your father's difficulties. It's Dr. Barrett again, Sarah corrected him coldly, and I'm exactly where I need to be. A tense silence stretched between them, broken by the arrival of another vehicle. Sheriff Jenkins' patrol car pulling up behind the Blackwood convoy. The sheriff emerged slowly, taking in the scene with careful neutrality. Quite the gathering, Jenkins observed, approaching the standoff. Someone want to tell me what's happening here. Enforcement of a lawful order. Sheriff Blackwood said, promptly extending the document. Dangerous animal signed by Judge Mercer this morning. Jenkins examined the paper without expression. And you brought your private security for this. Animal control handles these matters, Mr. Blackwood. After the animal attacked my employee, I felt additional precautions were warranted. Jenkins turned to Noah. This true the horse attacked someone. Blackwood's man entered the corral without permission, wearing exactly the type of leather jacket that triggers Phantom's defensive response. Noah explained. It wasn't an attack. It was deliberate provocation. The sheriff nodded thoughtfully. Interesting timing, all this. Animal control order the same day I get a call from an old friend in the state police about reopening the investigation into Catherine Barrett's death. Everyone froze. Into the sudden silence, Jenkins continued with deliberate casualness. Seems some new evidence has surfaced. Financial records indicating possible tampering with Mrs. Barrett's vehicle before it went off Prospect Ridge. Blackwood's composure visibly cracked. What are you talking about? Kate Barrett died of cancer. She was diagnosed with terminal cancer, Jenkins agreed. But she died in a single vehicle accident 3 months before the doctor's timeline. Always struck me as odd, that accident. Perfect weather, experienced driver, no mechanical failure. Almost like the steering had been adjusted. Noah's heart hammered against his ribs. For 5 years, he'd accepted the official explanation that Kate, weakened by her illness and medication, had simply lost control on a familiar road. The possibility that she had been murdered had never been officially acknowledged until this moment. This is absurd, Blackwood blustered. Whatever Barrett's told you. He's told me nothing, Jenkins interrupted. This came from Elena Ramirez, who finally felt safe enough to speak up after all these years. She's been compiling evidence since Kate's death. Photographs, recordings, witness statements. Quite thorough. Noah and Sarah exchanged surprised glances. Elena had mentioned nothing of this during their earlier conversation. Where is Ms. Ramirez now? Jenkins asked, looking around. Inside, Sarah lied smoothly. In reality, Elena had slipped out the back with instructions to take the service road to Max's cabin, where they would regroup later. Blackwood's expression hardened as he reassessed the situation. Whatever you think you know, Sheriff, you're overstepping. I have powerful friends. So I've heard, Jenkins cut him off. But I answer to the people of this county, not to your powerful friends. And right now I'm inclined to suspend this animal control order pending further investigation. You can't do that. Blackwood's snapped mask of civility falling away completely. Actually, I can, Jenkins corrected him. As the chief law enforcement officer of this county, I can delay execution of any order where there's evidence of possible criminal interference. He handed the document back. You'll need to take this up with the judge again after we've sorted a few things out. Blackwood's face flushed with rage. This isn't over, Barrett, he snarled, turning back toward his vehicle. Not by a long shot. As Blackwood's convoy retreated down the driveway, Sheriff Jenkins turned to Noah. You've got 24 hours before he comes back with more paperwork and probably state police backing. Whatever you're planning, do it fast. Why are you helping us, Tom? Noah asked the question that had burned in him since the sheriff's arrival. Jenkins' weathered face softened slightly. Kate was good people. Always treated my daughter's rescue horses for free, never asked for credit. He paused. And I've had my suspicions about Blackwood for years. Man's got too much influence in this county for someone who only moved back a decade ago. After the sheriff departed, Noah, Sarah, and Lily regrouped in the kitchen, the temporary reprieve, doing little to ease their sense of urgency. We need to find Elena, Sarah said, gathering Kate's research materials. If she's been building a case all these years, she might have the missing pieces we need. Max's cabin, Noah confirmed. But we can't all go. Blackwood's people will be watching the roads. A soft sound drew their attention. Lily stood by the window watching Phantom in the corral. The horse paced nervously, still agitated from the confrontation. He's not safe here, Noah realized aloud. None of us are. Blackwood's next move will be bigger with more official backing. Sarah nodded grimly. We need to move Phantom somewhere secure and get Lily away from here. There's the old Henderson place, Noah suggested. 3 miles through the back forest, abandoned since old Joe died last year. Blackwood hasn't acquired it yet. Good thinking, Sarah agreed. I'll take Lily and the evidence to Max's cabin, connect with Elena. You get Phantom to the Henderson property. We'll meet you there after dark. As Sarah prepared to leave, Lily resisted, pointing insistently toward Phantom. You want to go with Noah? Sarah asked, surprised. The child nodded vigorously, her expression more animated than they'd seen since her arrival. It's not safe, Sarah protested. Moving a traumatized horse through difficult terrain? Actually, Noah interrupted, Phantom might go more willingly with Lily. He trusts her in a way he doesn't trust anyone else. Sarah hesitated, professional concern warring with recognition of the unique bond between child and horse. Fine, she relented. But be careful, both of you. After Sarah departed for Max's cabin, Noah prepared for their cross-country journey. He packed minimal supplies, water, first aid kit, Kate's old compass, a lead rope for Phantom. The route to the Henderson property would take them through dense forest and across a shallow river, difficult terrain, but one that would hide their trail from Blackwood's searchers. Approaching the corral, Noah was once again struck by the transformation in Phantom's demeanor when Lily drew near. The horse's anxious pacing ceased immediately, his attention focusing completely on the child as she reached through the fence rails. He really does trust you, Noah observed, watching as Lily stroked Phantom's scarred face with gentle fingers. It usually takes months to build this kind of bond with a traumatized animal. Lily glanced at him, then back to Phantom, her expression suggesting she understood more than she could communicate. She opened her locket, showing the coiled horsehair to Phantom, who sniffed it with evident recognition. Kate always believed animals remembered more than humans gave them credit for. Noah said, carefully placing a halter over Phantom's head while the horse was distracted by Lily. Emotional memory, she called it. Connections that survive even when conscious memory fails. To his surprise, Phantom accepted the halter without resistance, another small miracle in a sequence of them. With Lily leading the way, they began their journey toward the Henderson property, staying within the tree line to avoid being spotted from the road. The forest embraced them in dappled shadows, autumn's last leaves crunching beneath their feet. Noah kept a watchful eye on both Lily and Phantom, alert for signs of fatigue or anxiety from either. The child moved with surprising endurance, occasionally glancing back to ensure the horse followed, which he did with remarkable willingness. You've done this before, Noah observed after they'd been walking for nearly an hour. Been in the woods with horses. Lily didn't respond verbally, but the slight nod confirmed his suspicion. With your parents, he pressed gently, another nod accompanied by a fleeting expression of grief quickly suppressed. It's okay to miss them, Noah said softly. The pain doesn't go away, but eventually it becomes part of you rather than all of you. At least that's what I'm told. He managed a wry smile. I haven't been very good at it myself. Lily studied him with unexpected intensity, then reached for her sketchbook, writing quickly. Did you love her? The directness of the question caught Noah off guard. Kate? Yes, very much. The child wrote again. Were you there? Noah's heart constricted with the familiar pain of old regret. When she died, no. That's something I'll always regret. Lily considered this, then wrote, she knows. Knows what? Noah asked, voice roughening with emotion. That you love her, Lily wrote, and she forgives. Noah stopped walking, overcome by the simple statement from the silent child who somehow seemed to speak directly to his deepest wound. How could you know that? Instead of writing, Lily touched her locket, then gestured to Phantom, who stood waiting patiently behind them. Through Phantom, Noah asked, struggling to understand. You believe Kate somehow communicates through him. Lily shook her head, frustrated by the limitations of words. She touched her heart, then Noah's, then gestured to the forest around them, an all-encompassing motion that suggested connection rather than separation. Everything is connected, Noah translated, remembering the drawing she'd made earlier. That's what you're trying to say. The child nodded vigorously, relief evident in her expression. They continued their journey in companionable silence, Noah turning Lily's message over in his mind. It sounded like something Kate would have said. She'd always possessed a more spiritual view of the natural world than his own scientific perspective allowed. Yet in the face of everything that had happened, his certainties were beginning to crumble. They reached the river crossing by mid-afternoon, a shallow ford where smooth stones created a natural pathway through the gentle current. Noah tested it first, ensuring it was safe for Lily and manageable for Phantom, who regarded the water with typical equine suspicion. It's okay, boy, Noah encouraged, using the soft, calm voice that had once been his professional trademark. Just follow us through. To his surprise, Lily moved back to stand beside Phantom, placing one small hand on the horse's broad chest. Whatever silent communication passed between them seemed to reassure the animal. When she began to cross the river, Phantom followed without hesitation, placing his hooves carefully among the slippery stones. The Henderson property appeared through the trees as the light began to fade. A small homestead with a weathered cabin and sagging barn that had once housed Joe Henderson's modest cattle operation. The old man had been Kate's friend and ally in local conservation efforts, his land maintained as habitat for native species, rather than maximized for profit. We'll put Phantom in the barn. Noah decided, leading them toward the structure. It's not much, but it's shelter. Inside, the barn smelled of old hay and dust, but remained structurally sound. A few ancient bales provided both bedding and feed for Phantom, who investigated his new surroundings with cautious interest, rather than his usual anxiety. He's settling, Noah observed with professional satisfaction. Your presence helps enormously. Lily beamed at the praise, the first genuine smile he'd seen transform her face. She removed Phantom's halter with practiced ease, then began creating a makeshift bed from loose hay, clearly intending to stay close to the horse. Sarah and Elena should join us after dark, Noah told her, checking his watch. We'll need to make decisions then about our next steps. As twilight descended, Noah secured the barn doors and made a small fire in the old metal stove that occupied one corner, providing warmth and dim light, without creating telltale smoke that might be spotted from a distance. Lily sat beside Phantom, her small body leaning against his larger one, both apparently drawing comfort from the contact. The sound of approaching vehicles sent Noah instantly alert, dousing the stove fire and moving to a window. Relief flooded through him as he recognized Sarah's SUV and Max's truck pulling up to the cabin. Sarah entered the barn first, embracing Lily with unusual emotion. Thank God you're safe, she murmured. When we saw Blackwood's men combing the forest road, Elena Ramirez followed, accompanied by Max. They've set up checkpoints on all the main roads out of the valley, she reported grimly. The story is a missing child and dangerous animal, giving them authority to search vehicles. Clever, Noah acknowledged bitterly. Makes us look like kidnappers if we try to leave. It gets worse, Sarah added, placing Kate's laptop on a hay bale. I finally accessed the last hidden file on Mom's hard drive. She opened the computer, turning it so everyone could see. Watch this. The video showed Kate visibly ill but still commanding in her determination. Final contingency recording, she began without preamble. If you're watching this, neither the primary evidence nor I survived. The Essentials Blackwood's program isn't just about weaponized animals for security applications. The real profit comes from the developmental research, applying the conditioning techniques to human subjects. A collective gasp escaped the listeners. Kate continued, her voice steady despite the horrifying implications. Children are the primary targets, their neural pathways still forming more susceptible to the behavioral modification. Blackwood's overseas connections have already begun preliminary testing in regions with limited oversight. The financial records Jennifer traced show payments from 3 private military contractors with documented human rights violations. Kate's expression hardened. Most damning are the prototype protocols developed here using sophisticated sound frequencies to create triggered responses in subjects. These were disguised as an experimental music education program at select schools, including Lily Morgan's elementary school in Berkeley. Noah felt Lily stiffen beside him, her small hand reaching for Phantom, as if for protection. Jennifer discovered the connection when Lily began showing unusual stress responses to specific musical sequences. The same patterns used in Phantom's conditioning, Kate explained. This is why recovery of both the horse and the child is essential. They represent living proof of both the animal and human applications of the program. The video ended there, leaving a stunned silence in its wake. "My God," Sarah finally whispered, looking at Lily with new understanding. They were experimenting on children. On you. Lily's expression confirmed the horrifying truth. Not surprise, but recognition, as if a missing puzzle piece had finally been provided. And Jennifer discovered it. Elena added, her voice tight with anger. Which explains why both she and Kate were targeted. They knew too much. But not why Phantom has returned now after 5 years. Noah pointed out the logical gap still bothering him. Actually, I might know. Max spoke up for the first time. When I first found him on the property, he was wearing a tattered blanket with a research logo, Harmony Institute. I looked them up. They're a music therapy center for traumatized children in Portland. Closed suddenly 6 months ago. Right after Lily's parents died, Sarah connected the dots. If Phantom was there, and Lily was brought there for treatment, Noah continued, turning to the child. You met Phantom before, didn't you? In Portland. Lily nodded slowly, opening her sketchbook to draw a building with a musical note logo labeled Harmony in childish script. That's why you had the locket, Elena realized. Jennifer must have recognized Phantom at the Institute, realized the connection to Kate's investigation. And Blackwood discovered it too, Sarah concluded grimly. Explaining the accident that killed Lily's parents, the Institute's sudden closure, Phantom's escape. And now all the loose ends have conveniently gathered in one place. Noah finished, the tactical disadvantage of their position becoming clear. We need to get this evidence to authorities beyond Blackwood's influence. Tonight. The sound of distant engines interrupted their planning. Not on the main road, but approaching through the forest from multiple directions. How did they find us? Sarah gasped, moving to the window. Max's expression turned grim. Thermal imaging. Military grade. They're tracking the horse's heat signature. We need to split up, Noah decided instantly. Sarah, take Lily and Elena in your SUV. Head for the interstate. Max and I will create a diversion with Phantom. No, Sarah protested. That's exactly what Blackwood wants. To separate us, pick us off individually. She's right, Elena agreed. Our strength is in staying together in what we collectively know. Lily tugged at Noah's sleeve, pointing emphatically to Phantom, then to herself, her meaning clear. She wouldn't leave the horse. The engines grew louder, headlights now visible through the trees converging on the Henderson property from multiple angles. The old mine tunnel, Max suddenly suggested. It runs under this property, comes out near Prospect Ridge. Henderson showed me once. Big enough for a horse if we're careful. That's over 5 miles of underground passages, Noah objected. Unstable in places. But Blackwood wouldn't know about it, Max pointed out. Old Joe kept it off official maps, worried about developers. Noah looked to Sarah, who nodded decisively. It's our best option. We stay together, get to Prospect Ridge, then to the highway, before they can reestablish their perimeter. They moved with urgent efficiency, gathering the essential evidence and supplies. Noah fashioned a quick blindfold for Phantom from an old shirt, knowing the horse would need help staying calm in the confined tunnel. Lily remained by the animal's side, her presence continuing to exert its mysterious calming effect. Max located the tunnel entrance behind a false wall in the barn's storage room, a narrow passage reinforced with ancient timbers that descended into darkness. Sarah's phone flashlight revealed rough-hewn steps leading down to a wider tunnel once used to transport silver ore from the mountain. Tight fit for a horse, Noah assessed, measuring the space with experienced eyes. But possible if he stays calm. He will, Lily wrote confidently, leading Phantom to the entrance without hesitation. The descent was tense but successful. Noah, guiding Phantom with gentle pressure, while Lily walked ahead, somehow communicating reassurance to the blindfolded animal. Behind them, Max secured the hidden door, disguising their escape route as the sounds of vehicles surrounded the barn above. The tunnel stretched before them, a low-ceilinged passage supported by wooden beams installed generations earlier. Their lights created dancing shadows on the rock walls, the air cool and damp with mineral scents. Henderson said it was a straight shot to Prospect Ridge, Max explained as they began moving forward. Follow the main tunnel, ignore the side branches. They progressed slowly, mindful of Phantom's blindfolded state in the uneven footing. Despite the pressing danger, Noah found himself impressed by Lily's unwavering focus on the horse, her intuitive understanding of what he needed to remain calm in this most unnatural environment. After nearly an hour of careful progress, they reached a junction where the tunnel split in three directions. Max hesitated, consulting the crude map Henderson had once shown him. "I think it's the right passage," he said, uncertainty evident in his voice. A distant rumble stopped them. Not from behind, but from somewhere deep within the mountain. "Was that?" Sarah began. "Blasting," Elena confirmed grimly. "They're using explosives to search for the tunnel entrances. We need to move faster." Noah urged, the instability of their position becoming clearer with each passing minute. They chose the right passage, increasing their pace despite the risks. Another blast, closer this time, sent a shower of dust and small stones from the ceiling. Phantom snorted in alarm, pulling against the lead rope until Lily moved to his head, her small hand on his muzzle, instantly calming him. The tunnel began to slope upward, a promising sign they were approaching the exit near Prospect Ridge. Max took the lead, followed by Elena and Sarah, with Noah and Lily guiding Phantom at the rear. A final massive explosion shook the entire passage, this one close enough to crack several support beams ahead of them. Wood splintered ominously as the mountain settled around the disturbance. "Run!" Noah shouted as the ceiling began to give way. They sprinted forward, Max reaching the tunnel exit first, helping Elena and Sarah through the narrow opening into the night air. Noah urged Phantom forward, the horse responding with remarkable cooperation despite his blindfold. Just as they neared the exit, a support beam collapsed directly in their path. Noah reacted without thinking, shoving Lily forward towards safety while using his body to shield Phantom from the falling debris. A searing pain exploded across his back as something heavy struck him, driving him to his knees. "Dad!" Sarah screamed from outside, her voice muffled by the continued collapse. Through a haze of pain, Noah saw Lily scramble to safety, then turn back in horror as the passage continued to collapse between them. Phantom reared in panic, tearing free from Noah's weakened grip. "Go!" Noah shouted to the horse, knowing animals could sometimes find paths humans couldn't perceive. "Follow Lily." To his amazement, Phantom did exactly that, leaping over the fallen beam and navigating the narrowing gap with desperate athleticism. As the last of the passage sealed behind the horse, Noah found himself trapped, a pocket of space surrounding him, while the way forward remained blocked by tons of fallen rock. Darkness enveloped him as his flashlight failed, the pain in his back flaring with each labored breath. For the first time since Kate's death, Noah felt a strange peace descend. He had failed his wife in life, but perhaps had finally done something right in protecting what she had valued. "I'm sorry I wasn't there at the end, Katie," he whispered to the darkness. A strange luminescence began to fill his little pocket of the collapsed tunnel. Not the harsh beam of a flashlight, but a gentle, diffuse glow that seemed to emanate from the very rocks themselves. Within this impossible light, Noah thought he glimpsed a familiar figure, slender auburn-haired eyes bright with the determination he had loved for 30 years. "Always so dramatic, Noah," Kate's voice echoed, tinged with fond exasperation. "This isn't the end." "You're not real," Noah murmured, recognizing the hallucination of an oxygen-deprived brain. "Perhaps not in the way you understand reality," the apparition agreed. "But neither am I gone. Nothing truly disappears, Noah. It only changes form." The vision knelt beside him, cool fingers seeming to brush his cheek. "Lily understands this. She's been trying to tell you." "Aha, the connections," Noah whispered. "Everything connected." "Yes." Kate's smile brightened. "And now it's time for you to complete the connection. They still need you." With surprising strength, Noah forced himself to his knees, then to his feet, driven by something beyond rational thought. His hands found the fallen beam that blocked his path, testing its weight, finding it movable where moments before it had seemed immovable. Piece by piece, Noah cleared a narrow passage, each movement sending pain lancing through his injured back. The strange light persisted, illuminating his path, when by all logic he should have been in complete darkness. At last he glimpsed natural moonlight ahead, the tunnel exit partially cleared from the outside. Voices penetrated his fog of pain and determination. Sarah calling his name Max, shouting instructions. Lily's silent presence felt rather than heard. Noah emerged into the night air like a man returning from the dead, collapsing into Sarah's arms as fresh pain and relief warred for dominance. "You impossible, stubborn man," his daughter sobbed, holding him tightly. "We thought we'd lost you." "Not yet." Noah managed his gaze, moving past her to where Lily stood with Phantom, both watching him with eerily similar expressions of calm certainty. Through the trees, lights approached, vehicles moving along Prospect Ridge Road. "Blackwood's men?" Noah asked, struggling to orient himself. "No," Elena answered, relief evident in her voice. "Sheriff Jenkins and State Police." Indeed, it was Jenkins who approached first, accompanied by uniformed state officers, and most surprisingly, a severe-looking woman in a dark suit who introduced herself as Special Agent Harrison, FBI. "We've been building a case against Blackwood for months," she explained as paramedics tended to Noah's injuries. "Human trafficking, illegal experimentation, corporate espionage. Elena's evidence was the missing piece we needed." "You knew?" Sarah asked Elena, realization dawning. The older woman nodded. "I've been working with them since I identified Phantom at the Harmony Institute 6 months ago. When Jennifer Morgan contacted me about Lily's unusual responses to the therapy sessions, everything Kate had warned about fell into place. But we needed proof of the connection between Blackwood and the Institute." Agent Harrison continued. "Proof that the same conditioning techniques were being applied to both animals and children. Your mother's research provided that framework, but we needed living subjects who demonstrated the effects. Lily and Phantom." Noah concluded, understanding at last why Blackwood had been so desperate to eliminate both. "Exactly," Harrison confirmed. "Blackwood was arrested 20 minutes ago at his resort, along with 3 international clients who arrived this morning for a demonstration of his behavioral modification techniques." "It's over," Sarah asked the question, carrying 5 years of accumulated grief and uncertainty. "The immediate danger, yes," Harrison answered. "The legal process will take much longer. We'll need all of you to testify." Dawn was breaking over Prospect Ridge as they finished giving their preliminary statements. Noah, despite the paramedics' insistence that he needed hospital treatment, refused to leave until he'd seen to Phantom's care. The horse stood quietly, now exhausted but calm, with Lily still at his side. "What happens to them now?" Noah asked Agent Harrison, nodding toward the child and horse. "Lily will remain in Sarah's custody while we build the case," Harrison replied. "As for the horse, that's more complicated. He's evidence, but also a living creature with special needs. He stays with us." Noah stated not a question, but a declaration. "At Broken Arrow, he and Lily both." Harrison studied him thoughtfully. "Your professional background would make you an appropriate caretaker for such a specialized case. I'll recommend it to the court." As the sun crested the ridge, painting the valley in golden light, Noah found himself standing between Sarah and Lily, all three watching, as Phantom grazed peacefully on the wild grasses that grew along the ridgeline. "What was it like?" Sarah asked quietly. "In the tunnel when we thought you were gone." Noah considered the vision he'd experienced. Kate's presence, her message, the impossible light that had guided him to safety. "I think," he said carefully, "that your mother helped me find my way out." Instead of the skepticism he expected, Sarah nodded slowly. "Lily tried to tell me something similar, that Mom's not gone, just changed form, present in different ways." They both looked at the child, who was watching Phantom with an expression of perfect contentment. "Mom's research always pushed the boundaries between science and something more intuitive," Sarah continued. "She believed animals perceive connections humans have forgotten how to see." "And Lily sees them too," Noah added, understanding dawning. "That's why she stopped speaking after the accident. Words were inadequate for what she was experiencing." As if hearing her name, Lily turned toward them. Her hand reached for her locket, then extended toward Noah in a silent offering. When he knelt beside her, she placed the small silver pendant in his palm, closing his fingers around it with surprising strength. "She wants you to have it," Sarah translated unnecessarily. Noah felt the weight of the locket, physically insignificant, emotionally immense. "I can't take this from you, Lily. Your mother gave it to you." The child shook her head, writing in her ever-present sketchbook, "You need it more." "Need it for what?" Noah asked gently. Lily considered her response carefully, then wrote 3 simple words that brought tears to Noah's eyes to remember connection. 3 months later, Broken Arrow Ranch bustled with activity unprecedented since Kate's death. The main barn had been rebuilt, expanded to accommodate the 6 rescued horses that now shared the facility with Phantom. The house sported fresh paint and repaired porches, windows gleaming in the spring sunshine. In the newly constructed arena, Sarah worked with a young boy mounted on a gentle mare, one of several children now participating in the equine therapy program she'd established with Noah's support. Her practice in Boston had been transferred to a colleague, her future now firmly rooted in the legacy her mother had begun. Nearby, Elena Ramirez instructed 2 volunteers on proper care for traumatized animals, her expertise now officially incorporated into Broken Arrow's operational structure. After the successful prosecution of Blackwood and his associates, Elena had accepted Noah's invitation to join the ranch, permanently bringing her decades of rehabilitation experience to their expanding program. In the center of the arena, the most remarkable transformation of all unfolded. Lily, seated at a portable keyboard, played a gentle melody while Phantom performed Liberty work, responding to subtle cues without halter or lead rope, a dance of perfect trust between child and horse. Most remarkably, as the final notes faded, Lily's voice rose in their place, hesitant at first, then gaining confidence, speaking the first words Noah had heard from her in the 9 months since her arrival. "Good boy, Phantom," she said, her voice clear in the hushed arena. "You remembered." Noah, watching from the fence, felt his heart expand with emotions he'd long thought himself incapable of experiencing again. Hope, pride, purpose. The locket Lily had given him hung around his neck, a constant reminder of the connections that transcended the visible world. As if sensing his thoughts, Lily turned toward him, offering a smile that carried none of the shadows that had once haunted her young face. "He's ready," she called, "for the demonstration tomorrow." And Noah nodded, marveling at the child's transformation since beginning to speak 2 weeks earlier. As if once she'd verified that deeper connections were being understood, words had become useful tools again, rather than inadequate substitutes. That evening, as sunset painted the valley in hues of amber and gold, Noah sat on the porch with Sarah, watching Lily in the distance as she walked Phantom to his paddock for the night. "The state coordinator was impressed with our proposal," Sarah mentioned, sipping tea from one of Kate's old mugs. "Full funding looks likely for the children's program." "And the research component?" Noah asked, referring to the scientific documentation of their therapeutic methods that Kate had begun, and Sarah was now continuing. "Approved. Elena's already setting up the protocols." Sarah studied her father's profile in the fading light. "Mom would be proud, you know, of all of this." Noah touched the locket at his throat, a gesture that had become habitual. "She knows," he said simply. In the distance, Lily had stopped at the paddock gate, her small figure silhouetted against the sunset as she stood in communion with Phantom. For a moment, in the play of light and shadow, a third figure seemed to join them. Taller woman-shaped, a gentle hand extended toward both child and horse. Noah blinked and the illusion was gone. Yet the feeling remained, of completion of circles, closing of wounds, finally imperfectly but genuinely healing. "A place where healing returns," he murmured, giving voice to the sensation. "What was that?" Sarah asked. Noah smiled, watching as Lily began walking back toward the house, her steps light and purposeful. "Just thinking about the name Kate wanted for this place before it became Broken Arrow. She called it a place where healing returns." Sarah considered this, then nodded with satisfaction. "It is now." As darkness settled over the valley, the lights of Broken Arrow Ranch shone like beacons in the gathering night. No longer a refuge for one man's grief, but a sanctuary where broken spirits, human and animal alike, could find their way back to wholeness. Not through forgetting the wounds of the past, but by transforming them into bridges of understanding that spanned the visible and invisible worlds. In the barn, Phantom dozed peacefully, no longer haunted by his traumatic conditioning. In the house, Lily slept without nightmares for the first time in years. And somewhere between, in the space where love persists beyond physical presence, Kate Barrett's legacy continued. In connections remembered in healing, returned in the silent language of hearts that transcends words and death alike. As the sun sets over Wallowa Valley, casting golden hues upon Broken Arrow Ranch, what was once a refuge for heartache now stands as a testament to renewal and hope. Phantom the horse, once defined by trauma, grazes peacefully beneath a sky softened by twilight. Lily, whose silence once echoed pain, now finds her voice carried gently on the evening breeze, bridging past and present. Beside her stands Noah, heart opened by the truth that connections lost are never truly gone. They linger transformed and resilient. Here in this quiet corner of Oregon, healing has indeed returned, carried forward by bonds stronger than grief, illuminated by love's enduring power.